Hello, I'm Ryan, and this is my introductory compositing tutorial for the Farmington Public Library Tinker Lab. I'm going to be going over kind of how to do some basic green screen and compositing adjustments in Blender, which is a free program, so anyone can get it, and hopefully will inspire some people to maybe do some cool projects. So if first things first, you're going to open up on this screen with this cube, and we're just going to completely ignore that and instead turn our attentions to this little dial here. This will change the room you are operating in, your different editor. And we want to go right over here to the node editor. So once you've clicked node editor, you'll have this kind of checkered background pattern and a couple of options down here and a bunch of gobbledygook over here, but just ignore that. I'm going to turn my render resolution up and set my frame rate to 30. And you're going to go down here to this. There's three little boxes. There is one for materials, and then the one in the center here is for compositing. So when we click that, we need to make sure we click Use Nodes and Backdrop. And nodes are easy enough to understand. It is basically like a visual effects circuit of sorts. So you want to delete, you want to right click render layers and delete it. Then you're going to add output viewer. We're going to use that here in a second. We're going to add input movie clip. And this is basically how you get your footage into Blender to do your composite. And there's a lot of things here, but we're mostly going to be using this image tab. So let's start by clicking open. Navigate to where you have your footage kept. Mine is in my green demos folder here. And I'm going to choose car plate and open that clip. So now we'll have a little preview of what the car plate looks like. Let's just plug that directly into the viewer and into the composite. So as you can see here, this is some footage that I took with my college course dealing with green screen compositing, and we were out in the daylight and we had like a professional green screen and everything set up. It was very windy that day, and we're gonna composite that. So in order to actually take the green color off, we want to go down here to add, then up to matte as in matte painting, go to keying, and then we can just take this and drag it in between. See how this turns orange? We're putting it in plate, like in between these two things. So the wire comes here into the input, and then the output comes over here and goes into our viewer. So let's also plug that into the composite. Now, something's wrong here because it looks like everything but the green is gone. And that is because our key color is currently set to white. So we need to open that up, check the little eyedropper tool, and blip. Okay, that's a little more like it. We can actually fine adjust it to work a little better by darkening it. I find that darkening the key color actually does help quite a bit. I don't know exactly why, but it does. So you can see that this area in the window and in the mirrors is transparent now, which is pretty cool. If you want to see what's actually going on, you can take this tab labeled matte here, and you can actually drag that into the viewer. And now we see that, oh, the white areas stay and the black areas go, which coincidentally makes these two controls here on your keying make a lot more sense. And this is where you're going to do your fine adjustment. Clip black basically increases the intensity of black, and clip white increases the intensity of white. So if you've got areas like this that are kind of holding out, you can reduce your clip white until you have a more solid key. But this looks pretty good for now, and you can even turn on some post blur to make it look a little better. So let's unplug the matte and plug our image back in. So here we have this, And you see there's a little bit of like ghosting going on here. And that could be that's negligible. We could leave it, but you can actually get rid of that using this control here called dilate and erode. Dilate, as you would expect, like when you dilate your eyes, it increases the size of your mask. And erode, like eroding a mountain, takes away. And then you can kind of erode and then blur it, and now you have a very smooth effect. So that's cool. Now, how do you put it over something? Like, we have our person, we want to give them footage to drive over. Well, then what you do is you add another input, movie clip, and I'm going to try and include these in like a Google Drive download that you can use. So then we'll grab car background MOV and open that up. This is footage that I just took out of the window of my car as we were driving down the road. And we want to go to Add, Color, and Alpha Over. And this is basically where all the good stuff happens. We plug one in here. We plug the output of our key in here, these two image ports here. And then we plug that to our viewer and into our composite. Now, I'm already seeing some issues. Make sure you click Convert Pre-Multiplied for color. But you see we're having problems with that, so we can go back here and adjust our clip white and kind of get some of our details back in. Kind of erase some of this weirdness. There we go. So by adjusting the edge kernel, we can get some of those details back. But then there's another issue I'm noticing. We're not driving in the sky. We need to be closer to the road. But I can't click and drag and move my sky down. So what I need to do is I need to add another node for distort. And in distort we go to translate. Just plop that right there. And now if we adjust the Y coordinate, we can actually slide that clip around. So now I'm just going to raise it until we are closer to where we want to be. So about here. Maybe a little lower actually. I'm going to say 160. 160 is good. And then if you click further down in your timeline, you can see that we're moving down the clip. And we're driving. And that's pretty cool. But say you wanted to adjust the time. Like, I don't really want to start here. I'm talking to the cameraman and there's not a whole lot going on. So we want to kind of skip to the good stuff. And you can actually adjust the timing of all these clips within Blender if you open up the movie clip editor down here where we went to the node editor. So let's go to the movie clip editor. And then where it says open, we don't actually have to open the clip again. We can actually click this little up and down arrow film strip and grab car plate. We can find, okay, where do I want this to start? I can scrub through. Let's wait till, okay, now I've turned my head forward. I'm not looking at the camera. That's frame 117. So go over here to footage settings, frame offset, 117. And now our clip will start here. And as we drag through, we'll kind of see where the active frames are. Let's do the same thing for the clip background. Let's find a place that we like. So it's kind of bumpy here in the first part, so I want to skip just to the trees and the road. So here is kind of where I like it, and that is, let's say, frame 70. So we go over to frame offset, frame 70, and that's where we start now. Going back to the node editor. Yeah, we're driving down the road. So in order to get this video out, what you want to do is make sure you have 1920 by 1080, 30 frames per second like before. And now you're going to come down here to the Output tab. And if you click this, you can choose where you want to output your location. So you can have your documents, desktop, and recently visited locations. So I'm going to go to Green Demos, and I'm going to create a file output car just for you guys' benefit. I'm going to hit accept. And now there's a few settings. If you intend on posting it to YouTube, these are the settings that I found are pretty good. Go where it says PNG, click that, and these are available file formats. So you want to go to H.264, open encoding, format, MPEG-4, codec, still should be on H.264. And then you just click render animation. And then because the render layer is removed, it will just output the frames of the two videos that we've put in. Once this is finished rendering, you can view your output file, which should look something like this. Okay, so that was pretty easy. Let's try doing maybe a more difficult one. Okay, so now let's try something a little more difficult. We're going to go back to our node editor, compositing, use nodes, backdrop, 100%, 30 frames per second. And now let's erase render layer. Add output, viewer so we can see what we're working on, and add input, movie clip. Now, this clip here was actually, let me plug it into the viewer so you can see it. This image was taken at in my hallway with a like $2 Hobby Lobby green tablecloth that I picked up just to kind of make a point that you don't need the finest stuff to make these keys work. So, and it's lengthwise so I could capture my whole body. So let's do what we did last time and see if we can get a key off this. So we're going to go to Matte, Keying, put that over it, select our key color, kind of right near the arm, adjust, turn it darker until we have a pretty good looking effect. We can view our matte by plugging matte into there, adjust our clip white, adjust our edge kernel, get some detail back, add some blur to kind of soften this harsh edge, erode to get it back. And now let's see kind of how our key is looking. Reduce it a little more. There we go. So that's kind of an okay key. It's not the best, but it'll work for our demonstration purposes. And now you're probably thinking, well, there's a big problem here. We have this edge where you can see all this detail. The green screen did not completely remove the background because there was some background elements still visible. And you're right. And the way we get rid of this is masking. So you want to go into your movie clip editor, open that video from before. There's the full thing. Oh, flattering. This here is your green area, and the rest needs to be discarded in what we would call a garbage matte. So your blender will be in tracking mode by default. So click tracking, put it to mask, and there's a little mask icon to help you figure out what mask you're on. So you want to create a new mask, and we're going to call this garbage matte. So there's our garbage matte. Now, in order to start making points, hold down the Control button, Control, click. And then, while still holding Control, click another area. And then just kind of use your Control clicks to trace around the perimeter here of the green screen. And then once you've reached the end, don't click to close it. Alt-C will automatically close it for you. So now we have this area kind of surrounding our actor on the green screen. Very bored. So now if we go back to our node editor, we can actually apply this to, see here, there's an area that says garbage mat. So we can go to add, input, mask, and we can click here. There's our garbage mat. We plug that in here. But that's not right. It basically did the opposite of what we wanted. So let's do the opposite and go here to color, invert. Put the invert on there. And now here we are. So now let's have a background to stand on. Let me go to add input, image. I'm going to go to my green demos where I have a image selected already. Add color alpha over. Now we plug our key into this slot, and we plug our image into this slot, and plug both of these into image output. Oh, I got those reversed. Swap it. There we go. Convert pre-multiplied. And there we go. Let's make sure this is plugged into our composite. And now, when we hit render image, I'm standing on the moon. I'm totally convinced. But maybe it seems a little too big. And we can actually fix this. See, you can't even see my feet. You can't see Earth behind me. We can actually go into the node editor. So it's not fitting. So what do we need to do? Well, we can use a scale from before. Let's go to distort, scale, and there's actually an option to put it to render size. Set that to fit. Do the same thing for the backdrop. Add, distort, scale. Make sure that's on render size. Okay, but now our mat is all messed up. See, I told you this one was going to be harder. Our mat is not fitting because it was set up for a larger image and we've just scaled it down. So what we can do is we can actually change the size of our mat by setting it to fixed scene. So now we can control the size of the mask with these two sliders here. And when I did this before, I believe the sizes that worked, you could just drag until you figured it out, which is basically what I ended up doing. But if I remember correctly, it was 950 and 1015. Oh, 1015. There we go. There. I'm back. Now when we hit render, there. That's more spacious and we can see what's going on. So we're done, right? Well, we can do a few more touches to make it a little better looking. Now, do you see how I was under tungsten light and I'm very red, but the background is very cold and kind of blue? Well, we can actually go in with another node, color, color balance, and we can drop that after the keying, and we can actually modify the color. So think of this as the darks, mids, and the lights. So if we add maybe a little more blue to the midtones, we can kind of cool this picture here off, and maybe add more of like a dark kind of, that's a bit too much. Let me roll it here. And we can actually modify how everything works and match that initial moon plate a little bit better. So there, I think that looks pretty convincing. We hit render. Yeah, on the moon. So same as before, we'd want to go to H.264, encoding, MPEG-4 container. And that's on H.264. We select where we want to put it. And we would hit Render Animation. Since I've already rendered it out, here it is. And there you go. That's green screen compositing in Blender. Hopefully not too hard. I know it can be very intimidating, but it's pretty fun. Get out the phone. Well, thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you again in another video. Bye.